talking about journeys, destinations, culture, adventure, gear, conservation, and all the things we haven't yet thought of. This episode is brought to you by Sunwear Solar Technology, a premium manufacturer of fixed and portable solar panels for overlanding vehicles and marine applications. Designed and manufactured in Germany, Sunwear panels are tested under the harshest environmental conditions to ensure rugged reliability for years to come. Trust Sunwear for your solar energy needs, no matter where your adventures take you. Check out their website at sunwear.solar. You'll find the link in the description below. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to the latest episode of the At Overland Europe podcast. Today, I'm joined by Thérèse-Marie Becker, who, after several years of living in self-converted vans, eventually found her way into the fascinating world of Land Rover ownership. More precisely, she bought herself a P38, Range Rover's ugly duckling. Since then, she hasn't looked back. She's built her own custom interior for solo travel, acquired the inevitable skills of a field mechanic, and embarked on expeditions across Europe and beyond. Join us as we talk about her experiences, whisky, cigars, Land Rovers and Campfires.
Hold on a second. I will just shut off this microphone because I'm choking.
It's all right, I can see you coughing and spluttering in the background there. Drink something, that's it.
I wish I could say it's whiskey, but it's a very cold coffee in here.
Thérèse-Marie, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mike.
It's going to be an interesting talk because you've got sort of one of these very colourful histories. You've done van lifing, you do mountaineering, you've moved everything forwards to campfires and Land Rovers. And in all of that, you've got passions like cigars, single malt whiskies, and solo overlanding. So let's sort of wind it right back. And how did you move from bricks and mortar to van life?
Well, it started off because of a life of adventures, I would say. I had started, let me actually rewind this a little bit. Basically, when I was born on a beautiful, I think it was a Tuesday, if I remember correctly, on the 20th of December in 1994. I was born healthy and very yellow baby, because obviously nothing was perfect. And I went on growing up. It was great, but I had this back problem from birth. It's basically a hyperlordosis. And when I was, I think, 17, for 1 year straight, I couldn't walk. So I was just bed-bound, chair-bound. So I would go to school and it was very difficult because I could just do a couple of steps. My back would be killing me all the time. And one day I was very upset and I was telling my mother, what could I do? Because I always had been very active. So I had been riding horses since my most tender age. And suddenly I could no longer go play outside. I could no longer go play with my horses. I could no longer go and adventure, build cabins in the woods. So my mother recommended me to find an activity that would be building up the muscles in my back to be able to support me. So I very candidly proposed the idea to her of jumping out of planes, because that's the only thing I could think of wanting to do. I was looking for thrills, not kills. And as much as she welcomes the idea, she dissuaded me and turned my, let's say, attention towards climbing. So that's how I started climbing. And it actually quickly took off, because in the beginning I would climb only once or twice every 2 weeks, depending on what my back was allowing me to do, to very quickly climbing every single day of the week, and then very quickly discovering that I could be traveling a lot to go climb in fantastic places. So I started to do that, and then I quickly realized on a student budget that Airbnbs were expensive, and that camping under a very old tent was not not a great way to recover. And when I was, I think I was 19, I purchased my first van, which was called Mercator Miltonaire, which translates as Mercator, that's an explorer, and then Miltonaire is 1,000 tonners. So it was very a very simple little van. It was a Peugeot Expert from 98 that had only been driving in the area where I bought it for 30 odd years. 20 years. And then what happened is that I took the rear seats off and quickly built a bed. I was so proud of it. I looked at the pictures today, and I'm very grateful that my parents were very understanding, because it was basically a wooden board with 4 legs and a collapsible wooden board. And that was it. That was my van. I had no insulation, no nothing, but I was ready for adventure. So I started to go in all the places I used to go, where you used to book B&Bs or hotels to go climbing. And I would stay in my van. So I spent countless days in Chamonix and in Fontainebleau and in Spain and in Switzerland, and it was glorious. Bought another van and then another van, and I just started to reduce the amount of time I was effectively spending under a normal roof of a house. And I just spent a lot of time on the road. I was working already remotely, and I was climbing a lot, adventuring a lot, skiing a lot, which was great. And the vans allowed me to do that. And then fast forward, what happened is that after owning, I think 4 or 5 or 6 vans, can't remember, I would change every year and a half, because I would cover about, easily 100,000 kilometers per year.
Wow.
I decided that I wanted to explore the idea of 4x4 vans, camper vans. And I was absolutely not in the idea of going for a shorter vehicle or a effective 4x4 as, like a truck, simply because we never really use it in my family. My dad used to really like the P4, which is a fantastic little off-roader by Peugeot for the military, and also the Iltis, but that was about it. I had literally no experience with trucks. My family didn't own them. We had tractors and ex-military trucks, so it's a bit different. And so I had started to look into vehicles that were more capable to go in more remote places and that were a bit more adapted to do the 4 seasons, because I love a very warm summer. I love a very, very cold, snowy winter. I love a very muddy autumn and a wet spring, basically. So I needed to have it all. Obviously, the vans are great because you have a lot of space. You can stand up in them. They also are problematic because they take a lot of space and you can stand up in them. So I had to figure it out. And then fast forward 2019, I drive from Singapore to London with the Land Rover Series 1. And I come back and I'm absolutely over the moon with this brand Land Rover that I had known, but only from afar. One of our friends in the village used to own that beautiful disco, had a lovely disco. And every single time his disco would be rotten away, he would buy another disco. So it was just, grew up with that, and always hearing the story of Land Rover, this, Land Rover that, but I'm not a petrol head. I didn't know much about cars. I had not really any idea of what a thing was, a brand, a model. I didn't even know until a couple of months ago what a carburetor was. So it's to tell you. And I thought, wow, this thing Land Rover is great. First of all, it's great because it's a square vehicle. I'm not a big fan of those round blobs. But also it's a very capable vehicle. And it's seemingly something that looks very doable to fix. I only learned later that Land Rover is turning every single one of its owners into mechanics since 51, 52, 53. So there we go. Jokes writes himself. And yes, that's how I purchased my first Land Rover. That's another very fun story.
What was your first Land Rover?
My Range Rover P38.
Okay.
The least
You've still got that.
Land Rover. Yes, she's called Nikita. And she's a diesel P38 that I bought it was 12 kilometers from where I'm based here in France. And I purchased it after seeing it on the parking of a supermarket, of the local supermarket, I tracked down the owner in the supermarket. And I love this story because I'm based in rural France, in very rural France. So we've got a very good idea of who is who, and we know the cars and we know who they own them. So it's easy. It's very easy to track people down and figure out, who owns what. And then this gorgeous Epsom green car just pulls up on the parking of the supermarket. And we are pulling on that parking as well with my mother. And I didn't have a chance to see who was coming out of that car. And so the entirety of the grocery shopping, my poor mother, bless her, she was very focused on the groceries. I was very focused on tracking who owns that car. The entirety of the shopping, I was trying to figure out who could be the owner. And so I walk down the aisle, and there's this gentleman. It's very fun because he's this eccentric gentleman, white hair, that probably have never seen a hairdresser in the past decade, but everywhere. And I think it was a leather coat that he was wearing, like leather bomber, black, just walking around in the aisles. And I thought, blimey, for some reason, I've got the impression that this is the owner of said P38. And so this gentleman goes to pay for his groceries, and I'm pressing my mother that we need now to finish our grocery shopping that I absolutely not help with. And that's it. The gentleman leaves, and I see him go to his car. We go to our car, and we are about to leave. And I tell my mother, no, look, I'm so sorry. I have to see if this person is selling its car. So I jumped out of our car and walked to him. And I didn't really know how to start this, but say, really nice car. Would you happen to sell it? It's very impromptu. But end of a grocery shopping time, we didn't have much time for other things than being straight to the point. And he said, well, as a matter of fact, I will be considering to sell this car because we rescue dogs. So these people became friends afterwards. We rescue dogs, and we've got 10 dogs, and now the Range Rover is a bit small. And I had no clue what he meant because I thought that they were small dogs. I only learned later that they were big dogs, and that he in fact was selling the Land Rover that he had that car for a couple of years. And then he really liked it. He was taking care of it like a true fan of the British Leyland brand. And he sold it to me. So the way it happened is that we met on the supermarket parking lot. And then the next weekend, I had invited him and his wife over for a brunch. And they came for brunch with the Range Rover and another car. And
handy.
Voila. Basically, I went for a tour with the car and didn't even negotiate the price whatsoever. My friends know that I love to haggle. It's a national sport for myself. And I just wanted that car. And there were a lot of problems with it. The car was very tidy enough, let's say, when I got it, but the car had already a certain age and was in dire need for some TLC. So as soon as I purchased that car, I immediately then went to Poland with it without any knowledge of whether the car was effectively going to make it to Holland, because I didn't pay attention to the reputation of the P38, because I only realized, I think it was a week later, that it was called a P38. So that's how informed I was.
You might have thought otherwise if you'd known what it was.
Well, I loved how it looked, and I loved the sound of it, and I loved how much space there was under the bonnet, because my last van was an Iveco Daily, and there was just no space under that bonnet, and working on it was an absolute pain, and I needed an OBD cable for X, Y, and Z. I had no understanding of what was happening. Not that I knew anything about mechanics, but it wasn't very inviting. Where this had this gigantic bonnet, and it was square everywhere. It was just fantastic. It was just fantastic.
Brilliant. That's a diesel, isn't it? Because I had a 4.6 petrol.
Ooh.
when they first came out.
They're fun. We had a 4-liter as well, V8, that I've just sold about a month or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it happened is really fun because the gentleman saw the ad and he had no clue about Land Rovers. And this gentleman, oh, bless him, he's I see a young gentleman pulling out of his car parked next to my place, and I'm thinking, oh, that's a very different person than I envisioned from the phone calls that I had. To be followed, that gentleman was followed by another man, very petite and worn out by life in the best possible way. He looked like Serge Gainsbourg or a worn out rock star from France that had clearly heavily smoked his entire life. He was struggling to get into the car because it was even a right height. The car was just too high. But he loved it. Basically, he didn't initially. He was going to purchase the car without even testing it out, and it was really fun because I thought maybe you want to drive with the vehicle before just finalizing the sale. And I was a passenger in the back. Because his son, so what I would learn later would be his son, was sat next to him. And it was really fun because that old gentleman had always dreamt of owning a Land Rover, but he never defined which Land Rover he dreamt of owning. He just wanted something with the name Land Rover on it. So that's how I sold the V8. Lovely vehicle. It was great because it was the same color as Nikita. That one was called Goldorak. We've got a name for all our cars here.
Yeah, I think that happens, especially amongst the Land Rover fraternity. We tend to name our vehicles.
Yes. What are the name of your vehicles?
We've got Larry, which is my 1963 Series 2. Bertie is a 1962 Series 2. We've got Pixie, which is a 1983 90.
Right.
I've got Skipper, which is a 1983 Range Rover Classic.
2 doors or 4 doors?
2 doors.
Ah, nice.
And we've got Elvis, and that's a Discovery 2 facelift.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Right, so we have Nikita, then Snatch, which is my bulletproof one. Well, it's a Defender, but it's technically a 110. Then there is Matador it's another P38. That's a champagne color. I never know the name of that color, but it looks like champagne, so we call it champagne color. It's absolutely not the correct name for it, but whatever. And then we have a newly acquired Land Rover from last weekend, which is a Discovery. We are the second owners. It has got 144,000 kilometers on the clock. Original. 300 TDI and only 2 little element of rust. So one on at the trunk and the rear bar, and one in the front. And that one is awaiting a name. And then we've got an L222 called Bucephale.
Wow. What year is the Discovery?
The Discovery is from 98.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, it's so sweet because it's got the same engine as the Vixen. But obviously the Vixen is 3.5 ton and the Discovery is about 1.5 tons less than that. And the sound is just... Oh, it's brilliant. And they drive so similarly, but also so differently. It's just great. I love it.
Fun cars, aren't they? I tell you what, you're saying sort of you've had to learn, let's say, field mechanics, how to look after your vehicles. But during your time with all the vans, you were doing, I presume, there are lots of hands-on building, converting them for living space, etc. So how did that actually progress? Because you're now overlanding with your Range Rover.
Yes.
And you're living in that as well, then, aren't you?
Yes.
As opposed to because you don't have a rooftop tent. You're inside the vehicle.
You're absolutely right. So with the vans, what happened is that there was 2 things. First, I was a student when I started to own vans. So there was the reality that I wanted to save money and have the van cost me as little as possible. So the building of the van was the most logical next step when I owned the car. And so I was doing a lot of repurposing of things that I already owned. And then it evolved because my practice evolved in the sense that I would spend more and more time on the road, which meant, well, I needed to be able to be safe, to be warm, because of course I travel most of the time alone. So that also meant that I needed to take that into account, because depending on where I was going to be, whether it was on the remote routes and tracks of Spain or in very cold Bulgaria, I would need to be able to, well, have water, shelter, fuel storage, safety, etc., etc., etc. And what happened is that because I was changing vans almost every single year, I was always updating my interior and my setup, because I increased the amount of sports that I was doing, and I wasn't looking for the comfort of a living room. I was looking for practicality. I was looking for efficiency, because I have a dog. I used to have 2 dogs, a very small pet dragon. It's not really a dragon. It was a crossbred, not exactly sure what it was, but it was really fun. Lots of character. And I had Oscar Napoleon. And obviously you can't have your dogs and your gear and your work in a small confined space without being organized. And so I was doing all these upgrades, and then I realized that I need to pay attention to the outside of my vehicle as much as the inside of my vehicle, because the inside of the vehicle is almost easy. Once you've done it once or twice, really, you just you roll with it, you know what you need. But the outside of the vehicle for me was absolutely new. I had no understanding whatsoever of how a vehicle functioned. That's to the point that when I got my first van and drove all the way to, so that little Peugeot Expert, drove all the way to, I think I was driving to France somewhere. I think it was first Brussels and then going back to Chamonix or something like that. And the belt broke after 300 kilometers. I thought I had bamboozled my car. I thought it was done. Thanks, Lord. The garage where I bought it was very helpful. I called him, and he took care of that. But it didn't even cross my mind that I had not a clue about my vehicle at that time. I just thought, well, this is it. My car is done, and I need to buy another van, and I don't know how I'm going to be able to buy another van. So that was fun. But then, obviously, van life continues with all the activities, and I kept on changing vans, not for any mechanical problem. It's just really that I was outgrowing that living space and needed something else. And so when I got the P38, it was a very clear learning curve, because the P38, I only started to equip it like a adventure vehicle as such, in which I could sleep, etc. this year. Prior to that, I had already equipped my Vixen, because I did a humanitarian expedition from Briançon all the way to Turkey to bring stuff to Kyrgyzstan. But the P38 was just my daily drive. And then it became the Vixen, because my P38 remained still for about a year and a half or something, for a lot of problems. And what happened is that I went to my garage, the garage with which I was working for so many years for my vans, who did all the oil changes and taking care of the vehicle. And I asked them, look, I need help, because my EAS, so electronic air suspension system, on the P38 is failing. And I didn't know what it was. I just knew it was an EAS problem, because it was written on the internet and on my dashboard. But I had no clue what it was. I didn't even know what the EAS letters meant. And my garage, basically refused to touch my vehicle. Then I asked them to do a general check of the vehicle post purchase, and as I was back from Poland. And they quoted me about 300 quid, which I paid, sadly enough, for an oil change and an air filter change, which was a lot of money for something so simple. And that was the marker. Basically, at that moment, when I was quoted 300 quid for that oil change and filter change, I started going to my garage. That was the very last time I saw them. And after a very trusty 5 years of working with them, and I started to look into it myself. So I learned all those fancy words. In French, we call it RTA, so RTA, which is Revue Technique Automobile. It's basically the manual of your car. It's a little bit like a big Lego manual for those who don't know, but for adults. And it's a lot of fun because you've got everything in it. And then also nothing, because it's just telling you what the possible problems are when it comes out of factory. And then all the little electrical gremlins that the P38 are known for example, are absolutely not indicated in it. We've got a lot of diagrams in the electrical RTA, etc. And I started basically mending one by one the things in my car, simply because my garage didn't want to touch it. And I refused to pay 300 quid for another oil and filter change.
Sure. So you've been through a lot of, I'd almost say, trial and error while learning.
Yes.
That's the best way to do it, though.
It is. Thankfully, I have very understanding entourage. And I had another car. I think it would have been very, very difficult if the P38 was my only vehicle, had been my only vehicle in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I clearly had no clue what I was doing. I was searching, so I would encounter a problem and then I would try and find the information without knowing what I needed to look out for, because I didn't know the names. I didn't know mechanics. I owned a couple of tools, but they were mainly for woodworking because I was doing the interiors of my vans. And it's really fun because now I actually own more tools than I own shoes, which is...
That's rare.
It's great, to be fair.
That's brilliant. That'll be a topic for a later podcast, and that is what tools we take when we travel. I did one recently with Anton. We touched on it and we discussed what tools, but it'd be good to know later on what you like to carry around.
Yes.
But let's go back to the woodworking part of it as well. Tell me about the interior. What have you done? Have you stripped out the back seat, or how have you rebuilt the P38?
So the way I was thinking about this is that one of my favorite features of the P38 is the humongous amount of volume that we have in the back of the vehicle. So even without taking the seats down, the reality is that, as you mentioned, I don't have a rooftop tent. I personally really dislike rooftop tents. And my vehicle is probably the place right now where I spend the most amount of time. So I need to be able to sleep in my vehicle. I need to be able to make a hot tea in my vehicle if it's necessary, or cook some food. Depending on where I am in the world, I just cannot open a rooftop tent, whatever. So the idea was I would create a bed system in the back of the P38, but I didn't want to make a compromise with having a bed and then not having storage, because the majority of the time I'm driving with the P38 without having to sleep in it. And I'm actually carrying a lot of stuff, whether it's for work, whether it's parts, doesn't matter. I do just carry a lot of stuff with me. And so I started with this very simple idea of creating a wooden box. It's a wooden rectangle with a drawer inside. And I tested out that design when design is a very bold word for a rectangular wooden board and wooden box. But I tested out that setup when I went to Sweden earlier in March. So I had built with my friend Richard a roof rack, because I was aware that I was going to be carrying a lot of things, and I didn't have, my vehicle is stock, so I didn't have back then a wheel carrier. I didn't have metallic bumpers. So I needed to have a system that I could handle, and that was going to be quickly implementable without a lot of funds because this was a prototype. So my brother, Henri-Marie, helped a lot to create this big drawer system. And we didn't put any fancy hinges or anything. It's literally just 2 plywood boards that have been assembled and cut in a way that it would create almost like a matchbox system. And the only specific thing about this is that I have, instead of the drawer going all the way down to the end of the drawer when it's closed, it goes all the way up to about probably 35 centimeters. And then I've got a compartment that I can open from the top where I can put the linen. And that's about it. That's the first setup I did in the P38. And so I experienced with mattresses and duvets and everything, only to realize, well, makes me laugh. I actually prefer to sleep on the wood. So I've got sheepskins that I just roll away, but I don't have a mattress. So I literally have got a bare piece of wood in the back of my car on which I can lay, and I can make it comfortable by having sheepskin. I upgraded the setup by adding a duvet. So I think it's actually normally for baby cots, and it's down feathers in a cotton envelope, maybe. And then I just have got my sleeping bag, and that's it. That's literally the current setup of the car. And the reason I went with this is because I wanted something that I could experience first and see if it was doable. Because obviously when you're laying down in your car, it's fine because there is enough space above your head. But realistically speaking, if it's cold, how do you practically deal with that? Like if you don't have enough space to sit up right unless you go in your driver or passenger seat. And we went to Sweden with my best friend Geraldine in March of this year, which was a great success. So it turns out that it actually works. The heights that I chose for that platform was the right kind of height. It works in terms of length. The fact that there's no mattress is ideal because we can put the gear that is wet in the vehicle during the day if we're not out on this, in the snow or anything, and it can just work. The dog can be in the back of the vehicle when we're driving. There's no trinkets or indication that this car is owned by a woman. It's just perfect because it's very. Do you have the expression Spartiate, like from the Spartian?
In German, yes, Spaß. Yes, I mean it's what's another word for it? Like simplistic as well, I suppose.
It's simplistic, efficient, and we've got this discussion often with my friend Tom. You won't see any stickers on my car. There is no indication whatsoever that this is a overlanding vehicle. It's just plain simple. The only difference about my car is that it's clearly an older vehicle because it's square, and it looks cool. And that's personal opinion. But what I mean, it's not a Toyota Corolla shape, and that's the only thing really that differs from other vehicles. It's just discreet and tidy.
Yeah, I think the solution you've got, I mean, it's good for stealth camping. It means you can also sleep in the car in a city as well. Yeah. Nobody's really going to pay attention to it.
Absolutely.
And having less is actually more because it means you need less time for setting up and taking down. I love practicalities like that.
Yes, I think
it's realistic.
It is realistic, especially when I was in the van. I had a whole protocol because I was crossing literally everywhere in Europe alone with my dogs, but it's alone. I had a whole protocol of, when I would be at the gas station, I would only go out from the driver's door. All the other doors would be locked. It's the same with the P38, so with Nikita or with the Vixen. There's a whole protocol that comes with it. And it's not in terms of, oh my God, you're so scared to travel. It's more, if you've got a protocol, you know whether something is right or wrong because you've got muscle memory that kicks in when you haven't done something. Like you'll check your oil, you'll check the fluids. Then you'll also check that all your doors are closed or open, whatever you're doing. There's a whole protocol that's being implemented. And the more you do it, the more it becomes muscle memory. And the when for whatever reason one day you're tired on the road or something, because it became an automatism, it's going to keep you safe. So it's going to keep you warm. It's going to keep you safe and locked up. It's great.
I think there's a lot to be said for motorcyclists, overlanding motorcyclists, because they go everywhere and they have basically nothing with them.
Yes.
It has to be organized. You've got to know where stuff is because it's all tucked away in small panniers and stuff like that. And I've always looked at what I do and what we do is that I just consider it as minimalist, like a motorcyclist, but with a roof.
Absolutely.
And to keep it nice and simple inside.
That's a great analogy.
Sure. The things we do. Let me jump around a little bit here. Snatch Vixen, how the hell did you get hold of one of those and why?
Well, so I was infected by the Land Rover bug very quickly. So drove quite a lot with it, with the series, and then with Defenders, bought my P38. And then I had this idea in 2020. When was it? End of 2020, to do a project in partnership for which I solicited the help of the French High Mountain Guide Federation to gather all ski gear, old alpine gear, and bring it to my friend in Kyrgyzstan, Shamurat, because he was explaining to me the complexities of being a mountain guide in Kyrgyzstan. Gear is extremely expensive. Amongst other things, it's difficult to just even access gear because there's not many offers, not many single offers. And basically, I knew I wanted to do it with the Land Rover because I had fallen in love with the car, with the brand, with the model, the engines, etc. I just was curious because I didn't really want to embark on a full restoration project for a Defender. I didn't want a classic at the time because it wouldn't have been adapted to the type of adventure I was doing. And so moving on, I was chatting to one of my friends in Belgium and I was telling him about this. And he has got a very good eye for spotting interesting vehicles. And
that's dangerous.
It is. Oh my Lord, it is. What happened is that one day I actually was in Ireland, and he messaged me and he says, T, there is this one. And he just sends me the ad. And it's an ad for what I think is a Defender. And he's telling me it would be perfect for your project. The only problem is that it's 3.5 tons, but it's in such good condition and the price is totally right. Mm-hmm. And so I look at it and I'm like, wow, this is great because it looks quite big. But I'm at the time in Ireland. I can't go and see it. So I'm asking Jonathan to chat with the guy and ask all the important information. And so we get chatting. Things are good. And then I really want to go and see that car, but I was stuck on the other side of the pond. So I'm asking Jonathan to go and see it for me. And then Jonathan is trying to get 2 or 3 appointments with the guy. And the guy's like, yeah, you can come and see it. And then the day before of going to see that car, the guy sends a message, say, the car starts, but it doesn't move. And it just was a nonsensical story in every single aspect. And so Jonathan can't go and can't see the car before me, but that was fine. So I was, in the meantime, I had come back from Ireland. I was in France, and then I flew to Kyrgyzstan. And on my way back from Kyrgyzstan, I was picked up by my friend Mark, and we go with a trailer, and we go and see this car. And the car was perfect. It starts bang on, just really nice, but it effectively does not drive. So we would press the accelerator pedal. That car just doesn't move. So yes, we can hear the engine revving. And keep in mind, at that time, I still had no clue about Land Rover's mechanics. I was doing more on my car, but I was greatly helped by a lot of forums and friends that are all around the internet with excellent recommendations and a couple of local mechanic friends who've only been working on Peugeots and BMWs. And I'm embarking on this new idea of going from Briançon all the way to Kyrgyzstan. And I'm realizing, well, this car is actually definitely what I need because everything works, but it doesn't drive. So the ad over the couple of weeks of this happening was going from, I can't remember, it was a silly number, 15, 12K. And oh no, it was 17. Then it got reduced to 15, and the ad had been online forever. So that car was for sale for a very long while. And so, long story short, go and see the car, and then go with the trailer. And the guy, I make him an offer, and the guy is like, "Oh, I'll think about it." Because, I've got all these people who want to buy it for this price. I'm like, yeah, right, just sell it, go for it, Yeah. I drive back with my friend Mark, and on the road, on the way back, I get a little text message from the guy saying, "Oh, I've had another person making me this offer for it, but I'll accept yours." So I thought, well, that's great, because what happened is that I made an offer at, I think it was 10.5, 9.5 or 10.5K for the car. The car was a 300 TDI Defender Vixen with, it was 13,000 kilometers on the clock, original. So
incredible.
That was just brilliant. Bought it, got it back, and then I did the work on it in Belgium to prepare it for this little project I had. And that was the first time that I was introduced to the whole concept of importing a car, because the car was bought in the Netherlands. I didn't know I needed to import the car. It was on Dutch plates, but whatever. I thought, well, that's great. It's a Land Rover. It's going to be seamless. Tell me about it. It was an absolute battle to get all the paperwork in order, because that car, that specific model, was actually a vehicle that does not exist in the books of Land Rover as such. So it's a vehicle that the British Army, British military, got the authorization to transform. So it's the chassis number of a Defender, but it's been completely transformed by the company Otokar in Turkey in 94, 95. But it's on the same chassis number as a normal Defender, meaning that that car is effectively non-spec. There's nothing original. The chassis is there, but it's a fully reinforced chassis, and it's not a vehicle that weighs 1.5 tons. It's a vehicle that weighs 3.5 tons. So that was a huge battle, because that's a whole other story. But basically, fast forward, I got a lot of help from a lot of friends and people who are very enthusiastic about this expedition project in Belgium. And instead of waiting a minimum of 3 months to get the paper, certificat de conformité, so it's a conformity certificate, etc., I got it all done, stamped out, validated in 3 weeks. I was leaving
that's good.
3 weeks. So yeah, that's a little insight on the Vixen.
Did you have to do much to it other than, well, get it to drive first? What was the problem? Let's start with that.
This is probably one of my ultimate favorite repair stories. When I bought it, obviously it didn't drive. And with the recommendation of Jonathan, I inspected the possible reason of why it couldn't drive. So Jonathan was one of the people who taught me the reverse engineering with mechanics. He was introducing me to the concept. And he was saying, well, there's not many things that could go wrong, because if the engine is turning, that means that there's fuel coming. We just need to understand why there is no movement from the moment that we press the accelerator pedal. Long story short, I inspected the fuel lines. Turns out that they were porous because they just aged really badly. And I made that was one of the only luxury that I put on this car. I paid for reinforced aviation lines for the fuel lines. So instead of paying, I don't know, 20 odd quid or something, I paid 70 quid. But the car was actually running. So what was happening is that whenever there would be fuel running to the engine, and so it would start and work, etc. The problem is when we were pressing the accelerator pedal, the pipe was so porous that there was air, and so it was starving the system. So instead of actually having an engine that would be keeping on running and just make the car move, there would be fuel going to it, but the porousness of the pipes would prevent the accelerator pedal to actually send enough fuel to the pump to actually get the engine to move. So very easy fix, 70 quid. That saved me a couple of thousands on that transaction.
Yeah, wow. I mean, when you said the engine was running but it wouldn't drive, I was thinking, okay, clutch, gearbox, whatever. So a fuel line is money well spent.
It is. I did do the clutch. So I don't know how it's called in English. It's the upper side of the clutch under the bonnet. That one I changed because it was quite tight, and that's basically it. Oh, and I put a new fuel pump in it. But then, she was pretty much stuck. I should have changed the belt, but that's a story for later, because then there's a whole story that happened where the belt actually had a little bit of an episode. It didn't snap. That's a teaser. It didn't snap.
That's good. I had on my P38, I remember driving down the Autobahn one evening. Typical, these things always happen at night. And it sounded as if I'd driven over a load of small stones, and all the lamps on the dashboard went on, all the little coloured lights, and the belt had shredded.
No way.
And I could hear bits of the belt hitting underneath the bonnet, and that was the noise. And at that moment, power steering went. Everything just went. Pain in the neck, especially in the middle of the night on the Autobahn. It was a quiet Autobahn as well. And just had to have it towed away. But got it repaired. But I know the problem with when belts go, it's always happens at the worst possible time.
It does. I'm so glad that seemingly you managed to get it fixed.
Yeah.
Okay. So did the belt completely snap, or how was it just fraying?
It destroyed itself. It frayed to the extent that it was still there, but it had absolutely zero tension. I mean, it was just awful. And lots of little bits of it flying around. So
did you need to change only your belts? Did you do any damage to the engine?
No damage to the engine.
There is a God for innocence, really.
I'll give you that, yes.
Do you still have that P38? No, you don't.
No. I got fed up of it. It was just a pain in the neck. I used to park it. It happened so many times that I parked. The first time the problem occurred, I was visiting a company, and I parked, got there in one piece, no problem. When I came out and wanted to leave, nothing worked. Couldn't even open the car.
Right.
And the electronics were picking up a signal from one of the computers in the building, and it decided it wasn't going to work. So, I called the company and said, right, how do I get into my car, first of all? So they told me, you've got to use the code, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, the EKA code.
Yes. I mean, managed to get that done. But then it kept happening. I was always parked in front of the wrong shops or a computer store or whatever, and this thing it just would not move. And the final straw was during the carnival season in Cologne. I sort of pulled the short straw and was the driver. So I said, no problem. The car will take enough people. So we went out in the evening. I didn't drink a drop, and, everything was fine, had lots of fun. And we bowled out of this hall where everybody all my passengers were,
pantalooned.
Worse for the wear. Got to the car and it wouldn't open and it wouldn't start when I did get it open, because I had the code to get in. And I ended up paying taxis for everybody. And I thought, well, bugger that.
Very gentleman of you.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I just sort of decided this car had seen better times and time to move on.
Fair play.
Yeah, but that's life. But I do like the idea of this fixing of yours. I mean, have you lightened it in any way, or is it still as you got it?
It's as I got it. It's the only thing I have done. It's taken out the grills, the metallic protections from the windows. These will come back, but on it, because I really like them. The only reason I took them out is because they have got this very specific bulletproof material for the glass, for the windows, and it starts to milk up. Mm-hmm. So it's basically making the window completely white. So I took it out so that I would increase the visibility. That's the only thing I've done to it. I took out the seats in the back. It's an 8-seater, I think, legally on the carte grise. I just took that out, but I actually built a whole bed system in the back with a drawer, etc. And there's a shelving element as well. That's going to be updated because I've outgrown that system. I want a different system inside the Vixen, but that's probably going to be for 2026 because there's a lot of little bits and bobs that I want to do on it. The paint, which is NATO paint, is just chipping everywhere, so it doesn't make the car looks tidy to my liking, tidy enough. As I was saying, the windows are milking up quite a bit, so I need to update. So it's a whole refurbishing system where you take out the old gel that is in between those two glass panels. It's not really glass, but I'll call it glass for ease. And then rebuild the back because I currently have just one bed platform that takes up the entire space. So it's about 1.40 meters, and I've got 30 centimeters of shelf next to that. And the bed goes all the way to the back of the front seat. So that's about 1.90 meters. And I've got a 2-drawer system. It's fine, but it doesn't allow me to use the vehicle to its full potential, which is like a little studio. Right now, I can't. If I want to work in my vehicle, I need to sit on the passenger seat with my computer on my knees. It's just not ideal. So the idea is to keep a shelving system in the back, but make a 1-person bed that can be pulled open into a 2-person bed. And have a different setup for the storage system. But that's for 2026. You
have plans.
Always.
That's good. But you also, you created an event, didn't you? Campfires and Land Rovers.
Mm-hmm. Yes. The Land Rovers and Campfires is basically, it came because of an idea that I personally really, really love being somewhere nice with my car, with a campfire. And I like it even more when I'm sharing that space with friends. And then it really came along when I was having chats and a couple of friends were telling me, we should get together or it'd be quite nice. And then I was saying, I could bring these whiskeys, or I make a really good boar that's slow cooked on the fire. And then we were chatting cigars because I've got a lot of friends who've got Land Rovers that never see a drop of mud. I've got a lot of friends that have got Land Rovers that see a lot of mud. But the common point is that we all love our Land Rovers, whether they see mud or not, and we all love camping, and we all love our whiskeys and our cigars and our good food and our chats around the campfires. And so basically I decided, I will put this event together as a weekend event where people who are experienced campers and non-experienced campers can get together and we can all sit around the campfires and share stories and share a nice whiskey or 2 or 3, but make it comfortable in a way. So you can literally come to the campfires after your week of work. For example, you hop in your car and you arrive there in Arendonk in the northern part of Belgium, and that's it. What's happening is that we welcome you. You've got nothing to think about. Your tent is ready. You just park up, you relax, you come under their main tent, and we prop you with, a whiskey or one of the cocktails that our friend and excellent mixologist Thales makes, and a nice cigar. And there you go. You relax. That's the beginning of the weekend.
So this is, as you say, it's a community of Land Rover drivers, but you don't have to be an overlander, a camper, or a hardcore 4x4. You just own the brand and want to share a weekend with like-minded folk. Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, the idea was really that we didn't care whether your car was kitted out or not. We are just interested in the stories that we share. The last edition that happened was really fun. I had whenever a guest coming to me and say, "Oh, it was really nice that all your friends came." And so, how long have you guys known each other for? Because everyone got together really, really well, and it was quite fun to be able to tell him, "Well, look, these people actually never ever met. They just are really the best fit, and it worked, it clicked." So that's something that we are trying really hard to implement at the campfires, is that the stories are more important than the cars. We go green laning and discover elements of the Belgian heritage or the heritage of the areas where we are in during the time of the weekend. It's all inclusive, so you literally just need to bring yourself. It's kids friendly, which is really nice. And it's easy. You come there. There is no, faff around, special code or whatever. You bring your Land Rover and your stories, and we've got some fantastic profiles coming. We've got ex-military people coming. We've got overlanding enthusiasts. We've got families who come there with their children who are just absolutely passionate about traveling and making it possible with their children. We've got lone adventures. We've got micro adventures that are coming. It's really fun. It's a nice get together.
Amazing. Have you got any idea when the next one will actually take place?
Yes, we're talking about spring 2026. So probably month of May, yes.
That's something to look forward to. How do you publish it? How many people are allowed to turn up?
We welcome a maximum of 26 people. So we've got 13 tents. Those tents host 2 people. They are very comfortable. You don't need to bring any of your linen unless you want to bring something that would make your experience more comfortable. But otherwise, everything is accounted for you. And we stop the number at 26. It's a big maximum. We really aim at keeping the group small so that we can actually have something that doesn't need a microphone, that doesn't need big speakers to be heard when we speak. Also, we eat all on so we've got this main tent, and under that main tent, we've got a very long table where we eat all together. We've got this space with all the armchairs where we can get together. And we've got the campfires, obviously. And so we want to make sure that everyone can find its own space and that it doesn't feel like a gigantic festival or something. It's really a get-together of like-minded people in a small group. And we also are very big on the leave no trace. So when we leave camp is literally set up just for the time of the weekend, and when we leave, there's nothing that is left. Brilliant.
I will put a link to the website in the description below, because I think it's not often you find something like that. It's nice. I really like the sound of that.
I cannot wait to have you on the next one.
Well, planning ahead, because May, it's not that far off, and yes. Right, I'll be there.
I know, it's not that far off.
I will be there. I will be there. Right, you travel a lot, and you have a new trip lined up.
I do.
To Romania.
I do. Romania is so close to my heart.
Why?
Because there's a couple of reasons. There is some family roots there, which is nice. We're talking great grandfather and grandfather and great grandfather. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I discovered Romania for the very first time in 2018 when I was presenting a movie called We Are the Rovers. It's a paramotoring movie made by a studio called A Studio, so AH Studios. I discovered Romania at that moment, and I specifically discovered the Carpathian Mountains. and I basically fell in love with old Romania. I was absolutely baffled by the culture, the heritage, so architectural heritage of the local communities in the Carpathian Mountains. There is a very strong sense of history that is slowly that was slowly and now quite rapidly disappearing, because basically this trip that I'm doing in 2026 is going to the Carpathian Mountains in the depths of winter, and I'm bringing salt, sugar, and oil to the remote communities that are basically winter locked up there. I'm going with my touring skis so that I can go where the car cannot go. And the goal is to document what's happening there, because there are these remote villages that are inhabited by the last inhabitants of those villages, which are mainly women. And they're mainly women simply because their husband died of the consequences of hard work, bad health, alcohol. And they're up there in those mountains, in those small villages, and there is nothing anymore. So they've got there a little bit of cattle, a couple of sheep. They work their garden, but we're talking people who are 60, 70 years old, and they are living in their traditional houses that have not evolved whatsoever. So there is no element of comfort luxuries such as central heating system or running water. And the reason why I want to document these people is because, well, first of all, they are really just a part of history that is disappearing. These little villages are, every single one of them, similar and extremely different, whether it's on the side of architecture, whether it's on the heritage of producers that they used to produce, and also to tell the stories, because when these people leave this earth, when these people pass, there is just nobody else that are going to be there.
There's a void.
Completely. Absolutely. It's finished. There is a rural exodus happening from the countryside. The youth is just drawn to the city. And this sounds extremely cliche to say, oh, there is, the youth drawn to the city. The reality is that it's incredibly difficult to be a young person desiring to make a living in those areas while staying in those areas, because besides agricultural work that is not oriented towards anything else than the local area, there is nothing. And it's extremely hard. It's a hard life in comparison to today's comforts. So this is something that is, for me, important to tell, to present, because they are quite literally the forgotten ones of Romania. That also means that a part of the folklore and the culture is dying, because when they are gone, nobody is going to be there anymore.
Tell me about it. This is very much in tune with a project I started back in 2019, Lost Cultures, Forgotten Heroes, where we were in Portugal and we were visiting exactly the same type of villages and communities which were and are dying out. But it's not just the people who are dying out, it's their traditions.
Yes.
Their handcraft. All of that is going to be gone.
Yes.
And it's super sad, but unfortunately, in the 21st century, it's a fact of life. And I think it's really, really good that you're making the effort to seek these villages out and, to keep those stories alive for the future. I take my hat off to you.
That's you.
Brilliant.
Well, this is this project was absolutely inspired by one of my friends, Paul, who is a off-road tour leader in Romania. He's based in Romania and in Germany, and he has got a project called 4x4 Carpathen Hilfe, where they go basically as many areas of Bulgaria, of Romania as they can, bringing elements to those in need, because there is quite a lot of rural poverty. Outside the rural poverty, on top of the Carpathian Mountains, there is also on the lower sides of the mountains rural poverty. And so Paul has been quite active for, I think his project has got more than a decade now. He's been very involved with the local help there, and using 4x4 vehicles, which it's fantastic to me, because that really brings that brings a whole new dimension to the use of our 4x4s. It's to not forget that it's a very advantageous tool. How do you say? Advantageous tool. More than and not solely an exploration vehicle.
Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. I'll tell you what, I've got one last question, and it's not for me, it's for people who might be considering a P38 for overlanding. What should they look out for? Because realistically, the car, it's a brilliant car. As you say, it's boxy, so the interior is spacious. It's very comfortable. Suspension is fantastic. Good engine, good drivetrain, but God bless them, they can be a right pain. So if somebody was thinking of buying one today and converting it for overlanding, what's your advice?
This is an excellent question, because as we were saying in the beginning of this chat, the P38 is a disregarded car. It's like the little black duck of the Land Rover range. But there is a couple of things. The P38 is one of the least rusty vehicles by Land Rover, thanks to the component and materials of the body and the chassis. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is that it's an extremely well-documented vehicle. So today, about almost... what year is it? 2025. So 30 years after its production, we finally have, between quotation mark, written everything about the possible problems of the P38. So that's the first thing to remember, is that it's, as much as it's a vehicle that is known for its electrical gremlins, it's a vehicle that's also very well known, very well documented, where you can find almost every single answer to your problem online. The second thing I would say is, like every single vehicle that you're purchasing, the P38 needs a lot of TLC or a lot of attention just before you hit the road for long drives. It's a vehicle that's, I'll only speak for our side of the pond, that wasn't really used for off-roading. So that's great, because that means that unless it's a car that was bought by a person who did a lot of off-roading, it's a vehicle that just has known a lot of roads and tarmac, meaning that there's been very little strain on the diffs, very little strain on the transfer box, gearbox, etc. So that's another plus point. And the third plus point is that it's fairly easy, specifically if you buy a diesel one, to find parts, because it's the M51 engine, which is the same engine that you find in the 525 by BMW. So it's great because it makes it easy to fix when you are in Eastern Europe, for example. Yeah. If there was something to look out for, is probably there is a little checklist that I like to give to the people who ask me this question. And the main things that come up are change the viscous coupling, the water pump, the thermostat. Those are the first things that are absolutely necessary to change. Do a wash of the gearbox and change the filter, obviously. And then give it some fresh oil in the axles, in the transfer box. And then basically drive with it and try and make a mental note or an effective list of the little problems that you encounter after you've done that. Because there are vehicles that were so disliked from the moment that they came out of factory that there is not really a lot that could go wrong. And if you've got any electrical problems, such as your key problem that you've encountered, this is something that can be fixed or also just taken out to make your vehicle bush ready.
So it's definitely a car to keep considering then.
I believe so. It's a very fun car. It's as comfortable on the road as it is comfortable off-road. It's extremely capable. Yeah. Parts are relatively cheap, which is always nice. And I mean, it's very personal, but who doesn't like the sound of an inline straight six? Just
yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Well, I think I will draw today to a close. Mm-hmm. We've learned a lot about you and what you're really passionate about. And I think we've got plenty of topics which we can visit in future podcasts. So this is like an almost natural cutoff point. And then, Thérèse-Marie, thank you very much for joining me today. And I really look forward to our next discussion.
Oh, Mike, thank you so much. I'm so looking forward to our next discussion too.
Brilliant. Well, you look after yourself. And thank you for being here. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the At Overland Europe podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and download our app for more adventures and exclusive content. Remember, you can find our guest social media and websites linked in the description below. Until next time, safe travels.